The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of New Bern is a circle within a circle. We are within the city of New Bern, North Carolina. We are definitely the UU Fellowship in New Bern, but are we the UU Fellowship of New Bern? Are we truly of the city? Are we a fortress of liberalism under siege by the masses of conservatism? Or are we a marketplace of ideas in conversation with our neighbors? Are we an environmental niche in need of protection from encroachment? Or are we like Spanish moss that thrives wherever it lands? Are our boundaries solid, only letting in the chosen few? Or are we open to people and strangers ready to grow and change? Today, I'm going to look at some demographic information comparing this congregation to where we live. New Bern has grown since 1990. Stevie will put up a graph that shows our growth. In 1990, our population was around 17,000. By 2000, it had risen to about 23,000. In 2005, this town was featured on the Today Show, which declared it one of the best places in America to retire. And the population boomed to 30,000 by 2010. And it's remained steady around that level since then. There was a slight dip that we probably all remember as Hurricane Florence, but we've seen to mostly recover from that. And so our 2020 census number was about 29,900. So we might break that 30,000 mark yet, or we may already have. How many arrived in this area after 1990? Raise your hands. Well, I'm looking, and that's at least 85% of you. We seem to be a congregation of New Bernians. I'm going to show you a chart of UUFNB growth. As you can see, all I did was just pencil in some of our numbers onto the New Bern chart. Back in 1993, this congregation existed only in the mind of two women, Barbara Owen and Athene Bunn. And they started organizing and meeting in people's homes at various sites around town. By 1999, 36 charter members officially joined. 2002, the year began with 31 members, and they added 10 more, coming up to 41. In 2014, you reported 70 members. And we exceeded 100 under Cynthia Snavely in around 2018. And even through COVID-19, we have maintained a membership of 101 in 2022. Our growth mimics the growth of New Bern. Of the estimated 12,000 new people in New Bern, 101 are members. That's almost 1%. That's not a bad number for UUs, who are less than 0.5% of the US population. But looking more broadly, we are only 1/3 of 1% of the whole city of New Bern, and only 1/10 of 1% of the 100,000 people who live in Craven County. So our success depends on who we think of as our target audience. Who do we serve? Who do we share this message of religious freedom? Who do we think who belongs here? We have been successful at serving the people who have retired to this area. How have we done serving the rest of the county? Are we the UU Fellowship in New Bern or the UU Fellowship of New Bern? 19% of Craven County is over 65, retirement age. And at least 85% of this congregation is. I haven't asked you each of your ages, but I know that most of you are retired and all of you look 50. So I'm just guessing. Another consideration is race. Let us look at another chart. The county is 65% white, non-Hispanic. That's that purple region of the graph. And about 26% Black. We are about 95% white. If we are a circle within a circle, we have settled mostly in the white part of the circle. And that's understandable because most of the retirees to this area have been white. And the Black population of New Bern is a smaller proportion than it used to be. And that's been a steady decline. In 1877, this was a majority minority city. The majority was Black. This had been a place where one of the first places that was free during the Civil War, and the industry, particularly the lumber industry and the tar industry and kerosene and sailing was a place for lots of jobs for African Americans. But it has steadily declined. In 2012, it was estimated that we were at 31%, and 2019 at 26%. What's happening is that this town is gentrifying. We are seeing a city that is transforming from a working class community to a resort community. And we see this just this week where public land is under the threat of privatization, from Union Park to the riverfront that we clean near the Trent Court housing. This land has become very valuable for the corporate interests who live afar. And there are groups that are getting together to say, maybe we should protect and keep some land for the people who have lived here and the families that have been here for generations. It's a justice issue, and we need to decide which side we want to serve. Is quality of life something only for the rich, or will it be preserved for the wider community, or sold to the highest bidder? We have a real opportunity, I think, in these next few weeks to be in partnership with a large section of the community. I was at a workshop here in the morning on Saturday, but I went to Union Park and I met Lorelei, who was there, and said there was about 20 UUs already out at the park, along with probably about 100 other people in the community standing to protect this valuable public land. There's another factor in our demographics is religion. And I'd like to look at a chart that talks about religion. And see, we perceive ourselves as a small group of religious liberals surrounded by religious conservatives. But the truth might surprise us. That huge purple section of the graph, 52%, are people who claim no religion. And that was in 2010, this graph, and that's probably, if we are like the rest of the nation, that has probably grown in the past 12 years. Now, as a non-creedal fellowship, our membership spans across beliefs. And here's my estimation of our congregation, just a little sliver across the bottom. And in our congregation, we have some Christians, some Buddhists, some others, and a lot of people who might say they are nuns or no religion. Majority of us would belong to no religion had we not found UU. Some of us are Christian, but find this congregation as the best place to practice a loving, inclusive version of that faith. And we have people who are in this room and many more who visit us on Wednesdays for Molly's meditation, who are interested in Eastern religions, who are part of this community, whether they are members or not, because that's a service that we provide to this community. This is good news for us demographically. And another part that's interesting news, and is that on that chart, 4.3% of the population attend Black Protestant churches. And the stereotype is that we'll never get Black people into our churches because they're all connected to their church, because it's a strong, vital political part of their community. But looking at these statistics, whereas it's only about 1 out of 3 Black people in this town belong to a church. 2/3 are in the category of none, which is our fertile ground. And so there are barriers that we think might exist that possibly don't exist. And so there are people of all races who are disenchanted with traditional religion, and they may seek out Unitarian Universalism. People who are leaving churches may choose to fellowship with us if they only knew we existed. I know there's some people in this congregation who retired to this town precisely because they looked up to see if there was a UU church here first and then moved. But what are we doing to let the people who live here know? We have a couple tiny signs on the road pointing to us, but we don't light our sign at night. And we need to think of new and creative ways to let the town know that we're here and we've been here. And we're not just for new people moving in, we're for everybody who is seeking a religious freedom and thoughtful way to be ethical in this world. It's interesting, this church chose to call itself a fellowship a few years when they chose their name. And it was a deliberate choice among the people who were there that the word church felt too churchy. But it's interesting that even among Christian churches, some churches are changing their name to Fellowship. The Riverbend Church, Baptist Church, just merged with the Creekside Fellowship, and now they are Riverbend Fellowship out there on the highway as you enter into River Bend. And this is a trend that is common in a lot of multi-denominational church of moving away from church sounding names to more names that are kind of open and stress community. Some call it marketing, some call it evangelism. But our advantage is this: fellowship does not disguise who we are, it explains who we are. The Oxford Dictionary defines fellowship as a friendly association, especially with people who share one's interest. A group of people meeting to pursue a shared interest or aim. So these definitions emphasize sociability, friendliness, combined with a shared interest or aim. And our mission statement is as follows, and it's on your order of service. We join in fellowship to create a community that encourages free discovery and growth, celebrates personal and religious diversity, and promotes lives of justice and compassion. So we are a fellowship. And now, UU churches are called a lot of things. UU congregations. In North Carolina, there are 26 congregations. 12 call themselves fellowships. 6 call themselves congregations. 6 call themselves church. One just calls itself community. Another just says, we're the Unitarian Universalists of this town. And does not say what type of group they are. Now, this designation of church or fellowship is totally up to the congregation that names itself and what they're comfortable with. It really has nothing to do with whether a congregation has a building or a minister or what size they may be. But it's something that a congregation has decided to call itself. And then informally within this congregation, I've heard people call this the church, the congregation, that place on Meadow Street. A variety of things, and all that is perfectly fine and welcome. But when we think of being a fellowship, and along those ideas of sharing a common purpose and being friendly and sociable, part of being friendly and sociable is inviting people. If you throw a party, you invite people, and you invite some people you don't know just to make it interesting. But the name is less important than the aim. Are we encouraging free discovery and growth, celebrating personal and religious diversity, promoting lives of justice and compassion? Who are we encouraging? With whom are we celebrating? And how are we promoting? The rush of retirees to New Bern is slowing down. Probably more development is happening down the highway closer to Morehead City. They're making the freeway bigger, and if that ever gets bigger, there'll be even more and more condos and vacation homes in that direction. But overall, the wave has passed. Do we wait for the next wave? If we do, our number will decline. We could get proactive. The wave of the unchurched is swelling, and we are in a good position to ride it. But how do we attract secularized people who are interested in community? It's difficult. Boomers are the last generation of joiners. Gen X, millennials, and the younger tend to get their products a la carte. They pick some from here and pick some from there. They may bowl, but they don't connect to a bowling league. They tend to bar hop rather than have a favorite place. They are more connected virtually and less connected personally. But we have some strengths that can reach a broader age group. We have an online presence. We have people who are looking that can find us. But we could be stronger by reaching out and connecting with civic organizations that share our goals. And this also might mean paying for online ads to reach people who are Unitarian Universalists but do not know it yet. And we can and do offer online classes and book groups and promote Unitarian Universalism. Our interests can be used to attract more people. Each month we change the art on our walls. What would happen if we held a monthly reception, went to Gallery Walk on Friday and handed out invitations for people to come here on Sunday afternoon to see the new art by whoever is on the walls? That would be connecting with people who are already here, who already share our interests. For the spiritual but not religious, we have weekly meditation and new classes and Tai Chi and Qigong that could bring other people to our building. We could make our other programs known to them. We could put up a poster by the door saying, we are the UU Church and this is who we are. So when they're sitting around waiting for Molly to get started, they might actually read and know something about the other things that happen in this community, and invite people to attend. Let people know that thanks for coming on Friday. We're also open on Sunday. It doesn't have to be pushy. It's just who we are. Gail's cousin sang in the first interracial choir in Chicago. And Gail went to concerts to see him. And they were held at the Unitarian Universalist Church because that's what liberals did. They formed interracial children's choirs in the 70s. When I took Gail there in the 80s, she said, how come nobody ever invited me to this place? She went back, 15, 20 years later and said, oh, I've been here before. But in inviting people in, or letting their space be used for social good, they didn't take that step of just saying, hi, thanks for visiting us. Please come again. Just that friendly kindness and openness of using who we are to attract other people to help us on our mission. And we do this with our social groups. Democracy NC has met here, the Carolina Coastal Committee, and I'm probably messing their name, but environmental group. And we've been very involved with African American history here. In fact, the Black History Month parade is February 19th. You can line up at Totten Park. We've been in that. If you want details, you can talk to Tom Shoup. And they march to about George and Main Street. And so it's a way to be present, and that's a place for us to be in the community and let people know that we are allies and we think that that community is important. And think about how we interact with other age groups. We've struggled to have a youth group or a young religious education here, and that's kind of waxed and waned. But there are other people. What are we doing for empty nesters? What are we doing for people who are facing a new stage in their life and are wondering what's next? That would be an opportunity where we might come up with some programs that we say, your kids are away at college, now what? And just have sociological classes that invite different groups in, to invite the curious in, so they know us. Because it's very hard for us to go hang out on a program and say, hey, little kid, you and your parents come to church on Sunday? I'm not going to do that. All of this takes energy. And the COVID protocols may limit how much we can meet in person and how many people we can invite in. We've already started inviting some groups in here. The poetry group here and the meditation group meets here. Social justice has talked about a movie night that might happen, but as the numbers are still kind of at dangerous levels in our community, we can hold on to these plans, but they may be happening this year. They may be things that we can do to just expand what we do. We clean the river front. Maybe before we do that, for a week before our river day, we can put a couple signs, say, hey, we're going to be here cleaning next week on this date. Come join us. And so maybe people from the neighborhoods where we're cleaning might join us, and we might meet them and know them. We have kayakers. I'm sure we might open that group up somehow, figuring out how more people could just meet on the river with us on Wednesday mornings when the weather is nicer, whatever morning we choose. It's just all these things that we do. Just be thinking, how do we invite a friend? How do we invite someone who maybe we don't know? How do we invite acquaintance? How do we invite someone from that next circle over to come and be here and be part of the valuable work we do? And with this changing landscape, we might have to define what it means to be a member. We might have to create other categories like donor, subscriber, participant, ally. The world is changing, and the definitions that we've used for members before just don't seem adequate, because I know that there are at least 30 people who come here weekly who don't consider themselves members, and we've never asked them to be members, and they might never become members, but they're part of what our mission of our church is. And so how do we say, yes, you are here, you are valued, thank you for coming, this is who we are. By redefining who is in our circle automatically gets bigger. And then we can also just kind of look at various ways of people who might be members long distance. We'll never see their face. There's other people who might just say, I think this is a good organization, and I'll drop a check, and we might never see them online or in person, but they're part of the community because we're doing something valuable here. We are providing a space for liberal ideas, compassionate religious thought. And so we are an experimental faith, and we are entering into an era of experimentation. And no experiment we try is a failure. It'll either work or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, we have information. If it does work, we have celebration. We will promote fellowship, inspire compassion and diversity. New Bern needs us to do more. Think about how this fellowship has benefited you. Count your blessings and think of whom this congregation can help. We will benefit by interacting more deeply with the wider community. We can serve both the needs of newcomers and the long-term residents of New Bern. May we go forward with gratitude and hope. May we recognize our blessings and share them. May we live what we believe, creating peace with justice, now and forevermore.